Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in to this Friday night edition as John Billingslea is going to join us talking about his UFO counters and what really sparked him to get into the UFO world and investigate this as a lawyer in California. We're going to get to him momentarily in hour 3. Swamp Dweller will be here as well as extra small Lee Strauss. And the best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you back in the gold medal position for the first time in weeks. Race fan sitting in the hot seat. Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing the silver. Oob to Joe's Maine, you got a bronze medal. Good for you, Joe. Good for you. Mel WD-40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show because you always want to go to a show nice and smooth. You don't want any type of rigidness. So, Mel, thank you for the lube. We appreciate you. Richard Minnick, how you doing? Kitty Caddywhack, good to see you. Robert Lamoth, Luscious Jewels, and Road Flare, how are you? There's Mama Catherine. Mwah. We throw you a kiss each and every night because we love you so much. All right, moving on down. T-Bone, my man, how are you in the studio? Necessary Dialogue. Nice to have you both here. Thomas Rock and Frankie B, thank you for joining us tonight as we continue on with our roll call. Number 34 in your program, starting in goal tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. Signs of Life, Eternity Eternal. How are you? Undead Jed, how are you? Good to see you. Hey, Trucker Andrew, thanks for coming on in. Pam Harris, good to see you. I'm Hardcore over on X. Thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call tonight. There's Monica and Soccer Satan, because soccer is a devil's sport. That's right. Richard Minish, how are you? Good to see you. And who else do we have? Scrolling on down, Algaray over. Where did you go, Algaray? Algaray over on Twitch. 1,600 push-ups in 7 minutes. John, I do have you. So just so you know that I got you, okay? All right. See how we are living. How are you? And who's next on our list here? Little Cam and Hippie Deidre. Hippie Deidre wearing her Birkenstocks tonight for this show. Little Cam literally ran 18 miles in 7.5 minutes to warm up for tonight's show. Millennium, my man, is here. Millennium will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Josephus, how are you? Kurt M., good to see you. Kitty Caddywhack, thank you for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. Eva Seymour, how are you? Rainwater, what's happening? Cody Eiler, thank you for coming on in. J True Seeker, nice to see you. Chameleon UK, how's the Commonwealth this morning? Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that bell. And who's next on our list here? It's Candace. How are you, Candace? Thank you for coming on in tonight. Maggie Shepard, welcome to SOR Chat. And Stu effin Gerson. Heavy on the effin. Right there. Good to see you, Stu. Thank you for coming on in. All right. We are caught up. Hey, I want to remind everybody the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. Very, very much. Dave, you need a fast-paced new ticker type soundtrack for when you're calling out the chat names. Oh, man, don't make my life more difficult. No, don't do that. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to talk with lawyer John Billingslea as he is on the search for what the heck are UFOs. What are they? He wants to know. I want to know. You want to know. So we're going to find out. We're going to get started here momentarily. But first, we are in roll call on our YouTube side right now. And there's Whoopoo Derek. How are you? Super crazy. Thanks for coming on in. John, do me a favor. Turn your camera off. It'll help with the booting because I know we're having some tech issues there. We'll just do audio with you, John. There you go. That should be a little bit clearer. And don't forget, Super Chat is open. Also, you can join our membership on our YouTube channel. And, of course, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. Throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods. We're together, my friends. Only night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We had a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We're going to have an amazing show tonight. Lawyer John Billingslea will join us from the beautiful state of California to talk about UFOs. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will kick things off, followed up by little Lee Strauss, who's back home. A week ago today, he was in town here, right here at SOR headquarters as we were getting ready for an investigation on a Flight 21. But we're going to bring in our good friend John Billingslea right now because it's his first time on this show. He's based out of Los Angeles. He's an attorney, John Billingslea, who also operates a YouTube channel called LatchkeyHustle. Video recorded a large UFO shaped like a pyramid that was hovering in the sky near his home during the evening of November 30th. This sighting, when coupled with numerous other recent strange sightings across the globe, begs the question, what's really going on? Yeah, we're going to talk to John about this. Short, sweet intro, just like we like it. John Billingslea, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Dave. Thank you very much for having me. You're funny. I like your show. I appreciate being here. Thanks.
Well, we appreciate having you here, my friend. And, I got to ask you right off the bat, did you always believe in UFOs, or did you think that this was something that was just science fiction?
Oh, no. I had the good fortune of being raised by hippies. So, I grew up practicing TK, trying to bend spoons, going to, psychic festivals, all of those things. That's been in my bones since I could walk. So I've always known that there's more to this world. But you mentioned my career path. So for a good while, I sort of shut that off, uh, and kind of went the straight and narrow path. And then I got to an age at a point in my career where I could sort of comfortably get back into my own natural skin and start investigating things a little more. But yeah, I've kind of been there since day one.
What do you love about this subject, or the subjects in general of the strange supernatural?
That's a good question. Thanks. I think one of the things I like about it is that, well, there's two things. Number one, it brings with it a sense of humility, right? Because we don't know anything. And so I think that's a really, really humble, good place to be. And if you can kind of check your ego, it's nice. It's like everybody's in the same boat because we're all searching for answers. And I think that brings a commonality to mankind that we don't always have otherwise. So that's one of the things I appreciate about this space.
When you kind of, grew up in that hippie type household, as you put it, I mean, having open-minded parents saying, hey, just keep your mind open to the realm of possibilities. What was that like, having the opportunity to free your mind? Because so many of us grew up in such closed-minded households. I know I did.
Huh. Well, I think for most people, myself included, you don't know any different, right? So whatever your existence is, you, as a child at least, you tend to think that's everybody's existence, like it's the norm. So I didn't realize until later in life that I was as fortunate as I was, that to have parents taking me to psychic festivals and teaching me how to visualize and meditate, and believing in the ability to manifest. Like, I didn't know that was different. I just thought that's what life was. And so yeah, again, it was only until I really became a teenager, I guess, when I realized that I kind of looked at things a bit a bit differently than other people. And like I grew a lot of people know this story who listen to me on my channel, but I grew up going to Catalina Island for camp every summer. And there's uh, contrary to the LA basin, which is full of light, when you get out to Catalina Island, there's no light pollution. And so as an elementary school kid, I grew up in the darkness of Catalina, seeing all of this stuff shooting across our sky. And even in the water, I grew up out in the water, snorkeling, seeing things darting around underwater, coming in and out of the water. And it was just normal. I didn't question it. I knew, because my parents told me, we're not alone. We're small in this universe. There's so much to learn and to observe. I just thought I was out there learning and seeing things everyone was seeing. And then, I kind of got a little older and realized that some of my views weren't standard, and not everybody had that same disposition. Yeah.
Prior to you having your sighting, and we're going to get into that in a little bit later in the show, what did
Mhm.
you know about UFOs? What did you think they were?
Well, that's a good question. I think it depends on when in my life, because early on, I think, and I was probably my disposition was shaped sort of by Star Wars and things. I just presumed that they were craft coming from other solar systems. I mean, and there was a whole world out there, and we're just one little tiny little planet on the outskirts of some federation. I bought into the whole thing, so I just presumed that that's what they were. And then I more recently, or in the last 10, 15 years, I guess, I've started to question consciousness, and what is, like, kind of coming to grips with the fact that we as humans, uh, we overlay our understanding of science on everything and our viewpoints on everything. So we talk about, well, is it all carbon-based life form needs this, and you can't go faster than the speed of light because of this, and you get these weird little boxes like that we've put ourselves in. And I realized, listening to the Neil deGrasse Tysons and some of these other people and saying to myself, like, oh, we're bound by our own knowledge, or really our lack of knowledge. And once I realized how little we actually know, that's when I started to wonder if maybe they're creatures, or some sort of hybrid. Like maybe, like we would say, well, is it a machine or is it alive? And those are sort of the options, because that's all we know. So maybe there's 7 or 8 other options that we just are not aware of, And so ever since I've sort of had that recent epiphany, I've realized I know even less than I thought I did, which is great because it opens up, the options even more.
Were you a big fan of hoping to see a UFO prior to your sighting and encounter?
No, I wasn't. I, a lot of times I equate what the sky has for us. I analogize it to the ocean, and one of the analogies that applies here is that if I'm in the water, might be great if a very passive, calm manta ray or sea turtle comes up to me, and that'd be amazing. But on the other hand, it could be something else much more dangerous. But the through line is that I don't have any control in either scenario. And that's kind of how I feel about the sky. What chooses to come down here or is here and shows itself and interacts with us, we have no control over. That's kind of how I feel, and that's a vulnerable feeling for me at least.
Did you believe that people were being taken? Did you believe the government was hiding anything? What did you know about the subject?
Well, I really hesitate to say no, because I really feel like I know nothing other than there we are not alone. Not only I don't think we're alone in the universe, because it's just statistical improbability and kind of laughable to think that, but I don't even think we're alone here on our planet. I mean, from my perspective, we hear in this very limited range, and we see in the very limited range of the visual light spectrum. It's like we're walking around in our own environment with blinders, sensory blinders on. So once you accept that that's the reality, it's sort of silly to propose that you know everything going on around you when you're effectively have earplugs and a blindfold on. So from my perspective, I just presume that there are black projects where technology and the science has been advanced far greater than the general public is aware, and they meaning the black space world has learned to kind of develop ways to pull out the earplugs, maybe loosen the blindfold a bit so we can see a little more and our senses are a little open, whether it's technologically or otherwise. If it's development of like psi technology or psi abilities, like SRI and remote viewing, things like that, or if it's more technological and it has to do with plasmoids and developments in that field. I think the government and the governments of the world have compartmentalized it to an extent that, and stovepiped it so that nobody really knows what's going on in totality. And that's the safest way to keep a secret, because nobody really knows. I don't know if that answers the question.
I think it does, because I think it answers the question perfectly for anybody who may be looking at wondering what to do with this. I mean, this is a subject where there are at least 10 million more questions to every one answer. And the answers that we get aren't very constructive. They aren't very filled with information. We get these little tidbits just trying to figure out what is actually going on within this field. And I know I talk about my frustration about it quite a bit here. But for you, as somebody who's relatively new looking on in to this scenario, do you find this story exciting? Do you find it that it is something that is, getting the juices flowing within you?
It's caused a degree of frustration because I don't like the having the idea that we live in an open society and a free democratic society where our tax dollars fund so much of our own existence through government entities, and yet we're spoon-fed information, and there are gatekeepers that decide what information we're entitled to and that we can handle. That is off-putting and a bit offensive to me. And I agree with you in your description of my kind of place in this area. I'm newer to it. I've always been aware of it, but I've gotten to, like I said, a stage in my life and my career where I can kind of be, embrace it more and dedicate a little more time to these questions and things. And what I've come away with is a degree of frustration, because so many times I've said in videos or interviews where I wish everything was on the table and we were all working with all of the facts and all of the evidence and information, because we could get to yes and put things together so much easier and quicker if we weren't being spoon-fed and misled with disinformation, and everything has to be in a skiff, but once you hear it you can't repeat it. I mean, there are all of these weird things going on where, in my view, that's not how a democratic open society operates. So it's just a frustrating situation.
As somebody who's kind of an outsider looking in on this, how do you pick a side to follow? Because there are so many different sides to ufology. There's the scientific side, there's the government side, there's the experiential side. How do you know who to follow?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. And, I don't know. I think for everybody it's different, right? And so for me, like I mentioned, being 7, 8 years old and seeing things coming in and out of the ocean in Southern California, all the way to now being 52 and still having experiences, I've learned to just follow my own path. And so, like, the whole concept of disclosure is almost moot to me, because I don't need some appointed or elected official to ratify what I already know. That's for other people. So I don't necessarily. I find it interesting. I follow the science side. I like to listen to Avi Loeb. I like to listen to Dr. Nolan. I take it all in, and I think it's important that we not push away any one particular area. Like you mentioned, the experiencers, and I was actually guilty of this myself. I'm not particularly religious, and so for a long time, that was just like a blind spot for me as it relates to the phenomena in UFOs. But now, after listening to Diana Pasulka and reading some books and opening up to that, I realized that, oh, that was a blind spot. I was sort of, I had this predisposition towards it, and it helps me fill in a gap, because now personally I'm starting to think that what people were seeing and describing as angels 2,000 years ago might not have been angels, but that's just what they described them as. And I would not have, that's a recent revelation for me, recent meaning the last, 5 years or so, because I opened up to that aspect of it. So I think the key answer to your question is not for me, not to follow anybody in particular, march my own path, but take in all of the information from all sources.
How much fun are you having learning about this subject?
I'm really enjoying it. And it's funny because, the more I look and investigate, the more questions I have, and the more I realize I don't know. And I can see how for some people that could be there could be a darkness there, because I can see how some people might spiral, and feel like, oh, you just realize, like, oh my gosh, I'm over my skis. I don't know who are we? Where did we come from? Are we lab rats? Are we in a petri dish? There are all these weird things that come up. But I think also that, I mentioned manifestation, and visualizing being some of the things I grew up with. And so I personally believe that, if I want this to be a positive experience, then it's up to me to make it positive. And so I choose to focus on the things that are interesting and fun and exciting. And there are a ton of positives to it. So that's what I tend to do.
Do you consider yourself a UFO researcher? Do you consider yourself somebody who is going to get really deep into this to get your questions answered? Because I can imagine, being an attorney that you are, that you probably have a mind like I do as a journalist, where your mind is running at about 100 miles an hour trying to figure out the answers to some of the questions you have.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I try in a lot of ways to turn that side of my brain off and operate more based on feel and intuition. And like a lot of the times, I record areas of the sky, not because I see something, but because I feel I have something's telling me or compelling me to, or I just have a sense. And then I'll just record for 1 minute an area of the sky, and then go on about my day. And then when I'm decompressing and downloading after my work day and my kids are asleep and all that stuff, and I have a little time, I pull up the 1 minute video and I scrub through it slowly, and I break the screen down into quadrants, and I review the 60 seconds over and over slowly. And it's the strangest thing, because invariably I find something odd that I can't readily explain. And so, but that all comes from a feel or intuitive base, where I'm trying to leave the logical side of me out of it. And it seems like that intuition has, following it has paid off, it seems.
Do you look at yourself as really delving into the research aspect? Because I think you're doing your own thing, but there is a lot of crossover with that.
Yeah. I think you're right about that. And I haven't had that question before, put to me before, and I think I might hesitate in calling myself a researcher, because there's in my head, in my mind, there's a certain degree of legitimacy that comes with, being a researcher. Like if you're a cancer researcher, or whatever it is, that to me that sounds like legitimate. And I don't, maybe it's a self-confidence issue on my part, but I don't I don't see myself as being that legitimate. I see myself more along the lines of somebody who's capturing stuff and doesn't have answers for it, and so I want to share it with other people and see if they have answers. And so I
I love
guess
it.
in you know, I want to roundtable everything and say, look, guys, look, everybody, look what this is. Look what I found. Can somebody tell me what this is? And to me, that's interesting.
And you know what? I love the honest, candid answer, because I think so many people in this field feel they need to title themselves
Yeah.
and, into something that they aren't, to try and add credibility to who they are. And to have you coming in here and say, no, I'm not this. I'm just a guy who's interested in this subject. I think it's fantastic and absolutely refreshing, John, that you have the
Hmm.
ability to say, look, I'm doing this for myself. I'm not here to be a researcher. I'm not here to, self-title or anything like that. I mean, good for you for doing it that way.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And that's a nice little segue, because it gives me an opportunity to sort of explain the backstory with this channel. You know,
Well,
like if I'm sorry,
hold on to that backstory. We're going to go to
do.
break. I want you to come back, tell your backstory about how this all started. We have attorney John Billingslea out of California. This guy is literally looking for UFOs, not for the money, not for the fame, but just for his own curiosity. Refreshing, isn't it? All right, there we go. We are clear. All right, we got about 5 minutes, John.
Sounds good. Thank you.
No problem. Good start.
Yeah, this is fun. You're asking really good questions. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. B. Arthur, how you doing tonight? Your voice was golden on your show. Uh-huh. Yeah, my orange shirt is a little bright tonight, but that's okay. It's okay. I like this one. I don't think we have these on the store anymore on our website. UFOs and tacos. Good combination. Have you always lived in Cali, John?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I was born overseas because my dad was a captain in the army, so I was born in Germany. But we came back when I was pretty young, and yeah, I lived in San Francisco for a few years, and then down here.
Well, very nice. Very nice. I've always been in BC here.
Were you born there?
Yep. I was born just outside of Vancouver.
Hmm.
All right.
You know, I was going through my laptop without realizing it, and then I shut it off, and that's when the connection seemed to work itself out. Right before you asked me to turn my camera off. So if you want me to try turning it back on,
Yeah, we can try turning it back on. Absolutely. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets wonky, I'll just turn it back off.
Yeah. No problem. Let's give it a try.
Cool.
All right. This is fun tonight. First-hand accounts are my absolute favorite. I could sit there and talk to researchers all night long, but to get first-hand accounts, that's what I love. Makes for such a better show.
Makes you wonder how many people have had these accounts and just pre-2017 with the article in New York Times or whatever. It's like how many people have just kept it to themselves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just making sure I haven't missed anybody in the chat room yet, because I have this ADD about me where I have to make sure I say hello and welcome everybody in the chat room.
Hey, T-Bone.
We got about a minute and a half here.
Okay. If the connection gets squirrely, I'm just going to go off with the camera and hopefully
Oh,
salvage it.
you're much better now than you were before.
Yeah, I
Much
agree.
better now. Nice goatee. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm humbled by your beard.
So am I. I still can't believe I have it. Daryl Stanley, how you doing? All right. We have about 35 seconds. Thank you tonight so far to Kitty Cattywhack, Candace, and T-Bone, my man, for the wonderful super chats. Appreciate your love and support of SOR. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Hi, Mr. Cowley. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out. And you can become a member on our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube. Become a member. It's fun. We promise. Here we go. Here comes the second half hour, Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for tuning us in. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to say hello to all of you and thank you for tuning us in because we like bringing the weird, strange stories to you each and every night. And you know what? You can always check out our archives. I don't know if you know this or not. Our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Lawyer John Billingslea is here. This is a guy who just, crept up on ufology, always had an interest, but then started seeing something strange in the sky, got his camera out, and lo and behold, he may have aliens. He might have some aliens. John, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great.
All right. What led you to all of a sudden start putting a camera to the sky? Not skies, people, because there's only one sky out there. Sorry, pet peeve out there. I'm a red pen that way. Okay, John, what made you start to put a camera to the sky and start seeing if you could film some high strangeness?
Well, so in 2016, actually 2015, I was in a car accident and I was pretty banged up and I had a few surgeries. Long story short, a buddy of mine wanted to see my elbow surgery. He's like, hey, how's it healing? Let me see. And I was in my car and the sunroof was open and I just took my phone and took a picture of my elbow and sent it to him. And I'm like, here, this is what it looks like. It was a few days post-op, so it was kind of gross, stitches everywhere. And he texts me back and he's like, what's that up there through your sunroof? And I look at the picture and I zoom in and it looks like a UFO that's up in the sky that I happened to take a picture of. I didn't even know. And so, yeah. And, I showed it to people and, this was pre 2017 with the article in the New York Times. So people are, in the courtroom hallways and things like, oh, there's the UFO guy. And I was getting mocked a little bit. And, it's not the end of the world, but it also caused me not to share that picture with anybody. So I kept it to myself. And then fast forward to really January of 2024, and I was watching your show, and you had Dr. Robert Shipe on
Yes.
of the Custodian File YouTube channel. And, when you're listening to something and you hear somebody who's local to you, because he's in Marina Del Rey, which is, not far from me at all, you tend to listen like, oh, there's a hometown guy. What's he talking about? And so I listened, and then I was kind of perplexed by what he was saying. And so I gave that a go and started recording aircraft because that was his approach. And then I started going and I was seeing things. And then I went back to my own footage that I already had. Like, well, what are the odds of this? Is, just trying to put it all together, basically. But the reason the channel is called Latchkey Hustle is because my sister and I had totally other plans to do something totally different, absolutely unrelated to this whole area. We were going to do a podcast basically, or a YouTube show just for fun about being like latchkey kids growing up in the 70s and the 80s in Los Angeles, and what those unique building blocks, what type of a human adult that turns you into. And so that's why the channel's called Latchkey Hustle, because that's what our thing was. But your show with Dr. Robert Shipe landed right in the middle of what my sister and I were doing. And so the channel name, all of the infrastructure was there, the framework was there. And I told her, I'm like, look, this is what's going on. And I showed her some videos and this and that. And I go, I don't know. I feel like the universe is telling me I need to pursue this. This is a strange thing. And my sister, to her credit, basically just said, go ahead, do what you're going to do. Use all the framework we have set up, use the email, the channel name, use it all. When you're ready for you and I to get back to doing what we're going to do, we'll do it. I'll be here. And, that was a year and a half ago. And since then, I've posted over 100 videos of things I see in the sky. So that's why the channel name has nothing to do, with the topic at all, because it wasn't designed for the topic. So.
That's all right. You have a place to put it. People are finding your videos. So when you put the camera up in the sky, do you have a feeling like you were summoning in UFOs? Because the whole psionics aspect has kind of taken off the last number of months. And I'm a firm believer in summoning. I don't believe in the fancy words that, government people try to change these things to. But that's just me. I'm old and cranky that way. And I will say this, though. Do you feel that you were summoning in these craft?
To a degree, yes. I'm a huge believer in the power of intention. And there have been several instances where I've had and expressed an intention to capture something or to have an experience, and then it's happened. And when you do that solo and there's no one around, it's sort of like the fish that got away, or does a tree falling in the forest make a sound? So I started telling my wife, because I felt like I needed some sort of, not validation, but I wanted verification from a third-party source. And so my wife and I like to go to Lake Arrowhead. And a couple of years ago, I told her, we're going to have an experience when we go, just for a weekend away. And I go, we're going to see something. I don't know what it is. Something's going to happen. And sure enough, we're on the balcony of where we're staying, and it's at night, and I didn't spot it, she did. She's like, look at that. And there's this big orb, and it's just moving over the lake so slowly, and it's changing color, making zero sound. I start recording it, and the point of me telling you this story now is because I went to Lake Arrowhead with a strong feeling that was going to happen. There was an intention there. And I think there was a relationship between that intention and that experience happening. Yeah.
How did you learn how to call in these craft?
Well, I don't know if I'd frame it that way. That's a very powerful thing.
No, but that's what you're doing. It's okay to admit that that's what you're doing.
Right. Well, I'll tell you. So I personally enjoy doing very, very difficult things. Just one of the things that motivates me or keeps me sharp is adversity. And it also helps me in my career because it makes things that would be stressful and difficult at work otherwise less stressful and less difficult. So I do things that are hard intentionally. Like I take ice baths and they're not comfortable. I don't like the cold, but I do it because the adversity strengthens me. And so over the years of learning that about myself, I've realized how powerful we as humans are. And so to answer your question, I feel like we are creators of our own reality to a large degree. I don't want to, someone might say, well, why don't you just win the lottery and have no bills and live happily ever after? I'm not saying it that way. But for me, I know that I can create the experiences I'm going to have in my life to a large degree. I can affect them. Life isn't happening to me the way a lot of people sort of like, well, those are the breaks and this is what happened. And I personally believe that I create my own good luck and my own experiences. And so um, I just I visualize. I see things that I want to happen. I see them happening before they've happened. And I can give you an example if you'd like.
Yeah, I would love one.
So this isn't about UFOs necessarily, but I grew up playing sports and I've always been an athlete. And a friend of mine last year basically was like, look, I know you like doing hard stuff. My friends and I run the LA Marathon every year. Do you want to run it with us? And, I've had a knee replacement. I've had a lot of trauma to my body physically, but that's a perfect example of something where I knew it's going to be hard. It's not going to be particularly enjoyable. But I thrive in those adverse scenarios. And so I agreed to do it, but I didn't train because of my prosthetic, basically internal prosthetic knee. I couldn't go running miles every day, pounding on a fake joint. So my way of training for the LA Marathon was visualizing. And so I got a map of the route. And because I grew up in LA, I know what a lot of those places look like. So at night, I would visualize myself running, not the entire 26.2 miles, but starting at Dodger Stadium, passing through Chinatown, running through the different markers of the city that I could visualize. And then I would get across the finish line. And every time I did, it was very emotional for me during my visualization. For some reason, it was extremely emotional. And so last March 17th, which was St. Patrick's Day, I ran the LA Marathon. And I felt like I was reliving a memory of something that had already happened. And when I crossed the finish line, this flood of emotion came and I was in tears. And just like I had visualized it, everything happened the way I had visualized it. And on paper, I shouldn't have been able to finish a marathon with a total knee replacement, 50 years old, not a runner, at least not a distance runner. There's no reason on paper I had no business out there. But my disposition is that if I can visualize it and commit to that process, then I can do anything. And so that's an example that translates into this space, because when I feel like I want to see something or I'm going to, that's the disposition I bring to the process. And more often than not, I find these weird things in the sky.
What are you seeing out there?
Well, I'm seeing black blobs that split into more than one, and then they'll come back together. I'm seeing these shimmery things that change color and don't have any obvious sign of propulsion or any steering or stabilization mechanisms. I see things that are going so fast that you don't see them with the naked eye, and even watching it on video, you only see that if you scrub through going frame by frame. It's like, and I've seen things that seem to morph into other things. Like there'll be 10 frames where it just looks like a silver orb, and then all of a sudden it looks like it sprouts wings, black, and then it splits into two, comes back together. and then turns into a silver orb again. And the interesting thing about those is that if you don't zoom in and you play it at normal speed, it just looks like a bird. But once you actually look at it slowly and closely, you realize that this isn't a bird. It's not a bird. And the same thing with clouds. Some of the best videos I have that I enjoy the most, I call them not clouds, because there are these things that look like clouds and they go from one to the other, one cloud to the other, and they go so fast, and there's no way to see them with the naked eye. But if you have the inclination to look and you're going to take the time to go frame by frame and zoom in, like I kind of described earlier, you're going to see that there's so much going on. Just like if we went into the ocean, you're just like all of a sudden it's teeming with life we didn't know existed. Or you look into a microscope. That's another analogy I use. I feel like the camera technology now is akin to a microscope. It's a tool that we're able to use to zoom in and slow down and see an environment differently. Just like a microscope allowed us to look, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, there's a whole microbial world there that we didn't know about. So yeah.
You mentioned that you had filmed a cube-shaped object. What was this like?
A pyramid type.
Or a pyramid, pardon me.
Yeah, no, not a problem. Well, I mean, that was, I don't want to say off-putting, but it wasn't not, some things I experience, and it's like this warm, positive, loving type energy. But that's not always the case. And the pyramid wasn't, it was so big, it was sort of off-putting. Like something that big shouldn't be in the sky dead quiet. And so yeah, and it also, a lot of things had to happen at just the right moment for me to see it. Like I was taking the trash out, I happened to take it out through a certain door. I happened to look up when I don't always look up. I also happened to have my phone on me, which always isn't always the case either. A lot of little things had to happen. So, that sort of makes me wonder if, there's more to it than just seeing some random thing. It felt a little by design in a way. So there was that to it. There is something else that do we have enough time? Like 2 minutes? Are we good?
We have about 7 minutes, so we got lots of time.
Okay, so I mean, we can come back to the pyramid if we want, but there's something else that an experience I had last March, and it was actually the week before the marathon I was just telling you about, which was on St. Patrick's Day. And I don't know what happened to me. I feel like, and I'm not necessarily saying there is an abduction, but the week before the marathon, I woke up and I was a mess. And I don't mean like I drank the night before or whatever. Like I woke up with a ringing in my ear that has not left. It was like I got tinnitus overnight. And I also had teeth that were broken. And my right eye vision was going away. Turned out that it was a fully detached retina. I thought it was a migraine. And that's no reason not to run a marathon. So I actually ran the marathon with a detached retina, thinking it was just a migraine. It was just going to add to the suck a little bit. And not that you can see it, but I also have this sort of knot on my thumb. And all of this I woke up with on the 13th of March. The ringing in my ear, teeth broken, my right eye not working, and this knot in my thumb. And I don't have any evidence to suggest that it was related at all to the phenomena or UFOs or anything. That said, I also have no evidence of anything. I don't trip and fall. I'm a coordinated human. Like there's nothing happened to me, but it's like I woke up as if a trauma had befallen me. And, I had a retinal reattachment. I had to get dental work. I mean, and like I said, the tinnitus, my ears are still ringing. I think that's going to be there for the rest of my life. It was like a trauma. Something happened to me. And so that was what caused me to start focusing more on other people's footage, because a lot of the things I post to my channel, I look at other people's videos, like air shows and some stuff from the ISS or a SpaceX launch. I scrutinize other people's footage and I find stuff and I see things and then I highlight it and say, hey, everybody, look at this, and here's the link. You can go look at it yourself. But that was my way of sort of stepping away, because I got freaked out by whatever it was that caused me to wake up on the morning of the 14th last March, all banged up. And so, like I said, a lot of these experiences are positive and loving and feel good, but not all of them. And to this day, I wonder if whatever happened to me was a result of my entry into this space somehow or another. I mean, I don't know how somebody wakes up with a detached retina and broken teeth or ringing in their ear and this knot in their thumb, when they didn't even leave the bed. It's a very, very strange set of circumstances.
We got about 3 minutes to go here. When you started thinking that maybe you had an abduction, okay, did you start playing it over in your head, trying to figure out if you were getting any residual effects from it?
Well, I mean, this took time. I didn't wake up the next day and think, oh, it literally took months and months of me trying to figure out what happened. And I mean, I checked my my security cameras around the property. I, checked for anomalous sightings in the LA basin that night. I did a lot of, well, I don't know if it's a lot. I did the research that could occur to me in order to try to piece things together. And, I haven't been able to come up with anything, but it's been enough. It's had enough of an impact on me that it's caused me to say, you know what, maybe it's safer for me to analyze other people's footage and spend more time doing that than having my own camera to the sky, because it could be the case that something didn't want me doing it and it let me know. So I don't even want to say that I was abducted or I think I was. I just know that something happened to me. My body went through a trauma that there's no explanation for. And it's been over a year and I still have no answers at all. And it's unsettling. And when we as humans engage the animal kingdom, we put darts in animals to knock them out, and then we go do what we're going to do once they're tranquilized, and then we give them something else to counteract the sedative. When we're done, we get out of Dodge and they wake up, and they're probably like we wake up post-surgery after anesthesia. We're sort of out of sorts. We don't remember what happened. So I didn't have all of those feelings, but my point is that I wouldn't be surprised if what we do to lesser animals is being done to us to some degree.
I think that makes complete sense. We've often said that here as well. Like in reality, how do we sit there and say what we do to animals? Why should we be complaining about what the aliens do to us? Because that's how they're conducting their science, just like we are with ours.
Right. I mean, it stands to reason. And again, that this harkens back to the beginning of our conversation where we're overlaying this with our humanistic framework, right? And so we're saying, well, it makes sense because it's something we do. That in and of itself is a fallacy. It could be that they do entirely different things that make zero sense to us. But this is one of those things where it makes so much sense, and it's we recognize it as humans because this is what we do. Even if it's a surgery for your dog, you
Yeah.
knock it out and then whatever. So
John, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Hard to believe we're already through 1 hour, my friend. John
all
Billingsley, he's a
right,
lawyer out of California, but he's chasing down UFOs, trying to figure out what the heck is flying in the sky at night, even in the day. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, John, we are clear. I'm going to put you in the green room for a few minutes. We're going to take a quick break
all right.
here, and then we'll be right back, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Be right back, everybody. Hi, number one. Old Davey is back. Let's bring John back in. So far, so good, John, for you?
Oh yeah. Can you still hear me all right and see me okay?
Oh, yeah. You're looking beautiful.
All right. This was a very enjoyable conversation. Thanks again for having me.
No, thank you for doing this, man. We really appreciate it.
All right.
Night Drive, how you doing? Thanks for coming on in. Who else has joined us late here? That's about it. All right, we got about 30 seconds left. Thank you tonight to Erica, T-Bone, Candace, and Kitty Cattywhack for the great super chats. Thank you to everybody who has joined our membership on our YouTube channel. And, of course, a big thank you to everyone who shops at our Spaced Out Radio store because we do not have ugly swag. No ugly swag. Thank you very much for helping us out. Lex Diaz, how you doing? Good to see you. And we're coming back in 5 seconds, everybody. Here comes hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. This is where we're getting into a lot of UFO talk with John Billingslea, our guest tonight. Thank you for tuning us in. Hope you're enjoying tonight's show. Hey, we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock up to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. HENT. HENT is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. All right, let's bring in our guest, John Billingslea. This is a lawyer out of California. He doesn't consider himself a UFO researcher, but he sits out at night looking for UFOs. He's even summoned them in. And, John, we need to talk a little bit more about that as we go here because it is such an interesting topic about summoning. I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, but we will get back to it. But first, how many UFOs do you think you've been able to catch?
Well, from a technical perspective, a lot, because there are a lot of things that are in the air and they're unidentified. The only question is whether they're flying or not, because flying is a technical term in itself and requires lift and all this other. I don't want to nerd out over it. The answer is a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on in our sky, over our heads and around us that I think we just don't know about or don't see.
Do you think out of what you've caught that it's all ET type craft, or do you think some of it may be homegrown?
I think there's probably 3 categories. The stuff we don't really know about, you call ET craft or NHI or whatever. There's also the man-made things, particularly around here in the LA Basin. Like I mentioned, Catalina Island is literally back there. And 12 miles this way is NASA JPL. And then right on the other side of the mountains here is the California High Desert. So you have Lockheed, Raytheon, all of those companies. And the mountain range here, I live in the foothills. This is like the playground for all of their black project toys. And you see stuff around and you hear things from time to time, sound barriers getting broken when they shouldn't. There's no real reason. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens around here. So I think there's actual NHI type things that, we all are interested in. There's the man-made stuff we're not supposed to know about and not supposed to see. And I also think there's another category, which is creatures, natural creatures in our environment that we're just not aware of yet. And it's like, a cuttlefish has these abilities, or an octopus or a chameleon. They're animals that we are aware of that have abilities that we don't have, and allow them to perform in ways that seem almost magical to us, right? And so there's a record of those things existing. So that to me means unless you're going to say we as humans have discovered everything there is to discover on this planet, which is a pretty absurd proposition. Unless you're going to take that position, you have to then say, well, there could be other things with skill sets and abilities that are beyond us. And I think there's things in our environment that we just don't understand, and whether it's because we can't see in that light spectrum, or it's a vibratory thing and they operate at a higher frequency that we can't get to. I just think our world is more full than we know of. And so that's another category I think exists, and it's like, when they found the mountain gorilla, nobody said, like, I assume nobody was like, where did this thing come from? They said, oh, this is something we found. The assumption is it's been here all along. We just found it now. We didn't know about it. Now we know. And I think there's a lot of things that are going to fall into that category as we evolve and continue on.
What kind of creatures do you think they are that we may not have discovered? Like, what have you seen that you think might not be ours, but might be something of this planet?
That's a good question. And it's almost like saying, trying to figure out, like coming up with a color, like inventing a new color. It's like, how do you do that? How do you get your brain around it, right? And but there are things that I've seen on camera that are repeated. They're not one-offs. It's not a one-time thing. It's like there's a type of something that zips around here, and it looks like an amoeba, and it's like a tetrahedron, and it has all these sides to it, and they go so fast, and they change color, and they dip in and out, and it seems like they're disappearing. And I know a lot of people in the comments on my channel will say, like, oh, these are interdimensional, and I don't know if they are or not. To my impression is that it's, like I mentioned before, it's frequency based, and they are just changing their frequency, and so we can see them and then we can not see them. They're not disappearing. They're there the whole time. It's just a matter of our ability to perceive them from a sensory perspective. And so I just don't think, I think it's presumptuous for humans to say we have discovered all of the things that are around us, when we also admit that we cannot see everything that's around us, and we can't hear above a certain decibel or below a certain decibel. There's all these sensory limitations we admit, but on the other hand, we're also shocked, at the notion that there might be things in our environment that we're not aware of. Also, every other day you see something online about a new frog found in the Amazon, or a new fish somewhere or whatever. It's like we're constantly finding new things, but it's almost off-putting to people when it's a new thing that defies the known laws of physics.
Well, let's talk about a creature out there, because you have actually had a Sasquatch encounter.
I have, yeah.
You got to tell us about this.
Yeah, and so I should preface it by saying two things. Number one, going back to that hippie upbringing with my great parents, Bo and Cecilia are amazing humans, and they fostered a belief in me where it's like everything we read, like Jack and the Beanstalk, and it's like giants. Sure, why can't giants be real? and this thing and that thing. And my parents never was like, oh, that's just a story. So Bigfoot fell right into that whole thing. So when Andre the Giant was Bigfoot with the $6 million man, I was all about it. I was like, that makes sense. So again, I think it's one of these things where if your mind is attuned to accepting these things, you're more likely to see them. Conversely, if you are stifled and you've grown up in an environment where that's all make believe and fairy tales and that can't be real, then your brain is not going to observe things because it's going to subconsciously rule them out before it gets to your conscious brain. That's just my assessment of it. So in 2007, my wife and I were in Portland visiting some friends, another couple of ours that were in LA and moved. And so we went up to Portland for the weekend, and there's a lodge called Skamania Lodge. And I don't know the Pacific Northwest that well, but it's out there, you know. It was a great drive getting from Portland to Skamania Lodge, and my buddy, he and I had a tea time. So we played a round of golf at the lodge, and the woods are very, very thick. And so we're coming up on the green on one of the holes, and I'm helping my friend look for his ball. And I look over, and the only reason I saw this thing is because there was movement. Like once the movement stopped, I immediately was convincing myself that I didn't see what I felt like I saw. And I just stared, and what I saw was there are two really, I don't know what type of trees they are, but they're two really, really big trees. And it was something that was like the size, the width of a refrigerator, and it was going like this, like the whole thing was moving just like this from side to side. And the size was awesome. Like I've met Shaq a few times. I think he's the biggest human I've ever been around. I've met some NBA and NFL players and hung out with them a little. Nothing. This is not like, oh, it's a taller version of Shaq. It's not comparable. It's like a different thing. And I tried to get my friend Steve's attention, and I was going, Steve, and I didn't hear him like he didn't react, and I turned, and I'm like, Steve, and I turned back, gone. And obviously the same two trees were there, but this massive thing that was in between the trees, in like the blink of an eye, was not there anymore, and it was daylight. It was, you could see through the trees like goalposts. And I shouldn't say a blink of an eye. It was like the length of time. I go, Steve, hey, Steve, look. So maybe a second and a half, but for something that large to, either move that, maybe it didn't move, maybe it phased out, maybe like we're talking about vibration, maybe it cloaked. There was no sound. That's the other thing. Something that big, you would think you would hear it leaving, especially at that speed that it seemed to have disappeared at. But I didn't see anything leaving, departing. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear something scaling a tree. I literally turned, and to this day I wish I hadn't turned, but I did, and I turned back and it was gone. But there is no question that I saw something big, hairy, bipedal, or at least it was on two legs, had no neck whatsoever. It was like head to shoulders, and like I said, it was like the size of a refrigerator. And we went back out there the next day. We were there for the whole weekend. That round of golf was on day one. We went back out the next day because I wanted to see the distance between the two trees, and it was just under 5 feet. So this thing was over 4 feet wide. And yeah, and
Did it have the conical shaped head?
I can't say that it did. I mean, you know, it's tough because you got to fight against what you think it should look like, and you're in, you know, going back, your mind wants to paint in details that, but I honestly don't recall whether it did or didn't. What I was taken by was the size, width-wise.
Yeah, when I had my close encounter in 2013 with two of the creatures, the first one was hiding behind a tree. It was kind of peering out and then pulling back in, peering out, pulling back in behind the tree. But the second one, which was a number of you know, when I say a number, probably 60, 70, 80 feet away from it, I got a full right side and back profile of the creature. It never looked at me. And when I was watching it, what shocked me was how this giant, you know, shoulder width, kind of like bodybuilder, world's strongest man Brian Shaw, with the wide shoulders, and then like you said, there was no neck. You know, except it went from neck up. In my case, went from like shoulders straight up to this conical shaped head, and then down on the front. And I was just like mesmerized by this before figuring, you know, it's probably time to leave. You know, this is a little bit too close. And now I look at myself years later, and here I am trying to have that encounter happen once again. But yeah, I mean, if you've never ever seen up close and personal, that shoulder to head ratio, it's magnificent.
Yeah, and you know, when you hear people or you see people online sort of poo-poo somebody's experience or, you know, sighting, and they'll say, oh, that was just, you know, it was a person, whatever, or it was a bear, what. And I can't speak for other people, but for speaking for myself, there's nothing else in the natural world that I'm aware of that is that wide. I mean, the width was just it. I mean, it's just, if you take a tape measure and hold it out 4 feet and realize how big that is, and you go, okay, well, yeah, what could it have been? And the other thing too is when Steve and I went back out the next day, I had him stand in between the trees, those two trees, and I stood where I was, where we were ball hunting for his approach shot, and he put his hand up. I had him put his hand straight up, and his hand all the way up was not at the height of the head of that thing. And Steve was like 6 feet, you know, and so I don't know, 8 feet that his hand was up in the air reaching. I don't know, but the point is, a dude that's 6 feet tall puts his hand as high as it can reach above his head, and it wasn't to the height of this thing I saw. And so, you know, I don't know what's running around Skamania Lodge in Oregon, but it wasn't a human, it was not a bear, you know. And it changed my, I mean, it changed my, I don't want to say it changed my life, because again, I just presumed these things existed. I just didn't expect to see one. Steve, on the other hand, it messed with him, even though he never saw it. He knows me, and so he knows the type of man I am. And so when I'm explaining this to him, there's no question about, you know, there's no issues with veracity with me. It's like, I just, that's not, I don't dabble in nonsense. And he knows that. And so he was the one that was like, let's go back out there the next day. Not only so we could get sizing idea, but he wanted to see. He felt like he missed out. Like he's like, I cannot believe I didn't, you know, I heard you calling me, and he ignored me basically. And but interestingly, he also asked that we not talk about it, and I kept to my word. And the only reason I mentioned it to you earlier when we spoke is because, as it happened, Steve passed away a few months ago.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And well, thank you. And so, and not that I was chomping at the bit to tell that story to anybody necessarily, but if he hadn't passed, I would not have mentioned it to you because I gave him my word. And I mean, it was in 2007 or 8. I can't remember which, but it was long enough ago that I don't think it would really matter, even if he were alive. I don't think he would, be upset about it. But
Why do you think he didn't want to talk about it?
I don't know. I tried to get that out of him, and he didn't want to talk about that either. And the part that I didn't understand is he had a degree of excitement when he wanted to go back out, and he felt like he missed out. And I couldn't square missing out without that excitement with what seemed like almost a desire to be in denial. And we didn't really get anywhere with it, and I didn't push him too hard. It wasn't that important for me. I wasn't going to cross-examine my friend. I mean, it's just, he asked me not to mention it, so I said, okay. And and I didn't until now. This is literally the first time I've ever told the story.
Well, many would say that's you being a good friend. Respecting his wishes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess so. I mean, I do wonder though, but I've been in scenarios where, things go on and you have certain feelings or emotions about them. And, if you can't ask your friends to do something like that, then who can you ask? And what kind of friend are you if you can't keep your mouth shut about something, But
True.
I mean,
we have 2 minutes to go till we got to go to break. John Billingslea is our guest tonight. That Sasquatch encounter, have you, why haven't you delved into that the way you have with the UFOs?
Well, I think probably because, I live and operate in a concrete jungle. I mean, being in that environment was sort of an outlier scenario. I think if I lived in that environment, I probably would have delved into it more because I've never forgotten it. It's burned into my mind. And also, I did look into it quite a bit afterwards online. And like I got into the Finding Bigfoot shows, and like I did get into it. I kind of followed things. I followed Jeff Meldrum, and I just but living in Los Angeles, there's not it's just the environment is geared more towards looking up than it is being in wooded areas. Like I don't have the benefit of living where you live, where it's so much more wooded.
That is true. That is very, very true. And with a minute to go here, do you think there's a connection between the two?
Whew. Well, if you ask Stan Gordon, the answer is yes, right?
Oh, true enough.
I mean, yeah, and it's funny because the Chestnut Ridge in Pennsylvania is, well, a couple years ago, we vacationed in the Poconos, and that is a very quote unquote, if someone wants to say squatchy, I don't know. I'm not really a fan of that word, but you get in certain environments.
That's a banned word around here.
Okay, well, I can understand why. It's kind of a weird one, but you get in certain environments, right, where you feel differently. The environment feels like it has something to offer, and that's how the Poconos felt for me. And the point is with Stan Gordon and the Chestnut Ridge is, I think, to a degree, all of these things are connected. We just haven't figured out how and why. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, we only got about 4 seconds. Yes, I do believe there is a connection between all things in the phenomena. I really do. We'll be right back with the second half of the show coming up after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
when we return here, I'm going to get some audience questions for you.
Great.
Yeah, we like to get them involved.
Yeah.
And if I don't, one of our listeners, T-Bone, he's like a big pro wrestling guy. He'll come right through the computer and literally hit me with a steel chair. So
that's funny. Yeah, I
yeah, we don't want
appreciate
to take
T-Bone.
that chance. Yeah, we're going back to our Sasquatch area tomorrow. Oh, I can't wait.
How often do
Can't
you go
wait.
out?
Every weekend, every Saturday night.
That's cool.
I have a spot here, man. My audience knows that it'll be repetitive to them. I got a spot here in the middle of the forest that has ghosts, Sasquatch, UFOs, aliens, disembodied voices, EVPs, monsters trying to lure you into the forest. It's crazy there.
How did you find it?
And every week you go there, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, well, that sounds like it has quite a bit to offer.
Yep. It's scary, and it's a very phobic area. Like, give you an example. 2 weeks ago when we were there, we walked into this one area. I'd been in that area a dozen times. And all of a sudden we walk in there, and it's an open area, just a little tiny meadow, maybe 40 feet by 40 feet. And all of a sudden we can't breathe. There's no freaking air there. It was the weirdest thing. And we're in the middle of the forest, man. And that happened in 2 spots.
Just stifling, huh?
Yeah. It's
What do you do when something like that happens? Do you write it out and try to breathe through it?
We
or
walked
you get
out
of there. Or
we
what?
walked 20 we walked 20 feet out of it, and we were breathing properly. 20 feet.
Yeah.
Like, this area, it messes with you. It messes with you big time. It'll plan to do things when it knows the camera is off. Like, give you an example. We put up a trail cam way off, probably 100 yards from our camp. Excuse me. My allergies today. About 100 yards from our camp. Total opposite direction of where we're getting a lot of Sasquatch activity. We had our trail cam up, and it's literally facing a main trail. Like, all the animals, you can see the animal droppings and the footprints of deer and bear and coyotes and all along this trail. We didn't get a single photo. Not one. My buddy Tim takes that same trail cam home, sets it up the exact same way to test it, and it works fine. Yeah.
How do you explain that?
But the phenomena will up there will screw with you. It will screw with you. All of a sudden, it'll tell you, time to go. Get out. Your day's over.
Yeah.
Or, like 2 weeks ago, we stupid as this sounds, but I'll tell you, we actually heard something really big. I don't know what it was. Absolutely far away in the trees. Maybe 40 yards from us. We went back last week to see, we went into that area last week to see what we could find. Okay. And we found droppings that I've talked to a number of outdoors people since I took photos of it. They can't explain it. They don't know what it is.
Really?
So tomorrow we're actually grabbing some samples and putting them in a Ziploc bag and see how we do. So 1 second here. Thank you to Human Carl, Kitty Cattywack, Candace, T-Bone, my man, and Erica for the wonderful super chats. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so check it on out. We are coming back here in 7 seconds. So just sit back, relax, turn the woo up, because here we go. Here comes the second half of Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, let's bring in John Billingslea. He's been filming UFOs over his home in Los Angeles. He's a lawyer. He's a guy who's interested in this subject of UFOs. Can't figure out why they're coming around him. Summoning UFOs, which we're going to talk about here briefly before getting to audience questions. John, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is a great conversation.
You know, Stephen Greer makes you pay like $2,500 to $3,500 to learn how to summon UFOs, and here you are doing it yourself for free.
Oh, wow. You know, it's funny that, and I don't know what his process is. I have heard that he charges people, and that's, you know, that's his business, I suppose. But what I find interesting is that the concept of summoning, and we touched on intention, and I mentioned, you know, that manifesting and having intention, like with the Arrowhead sighting my wife and I went there with an intention. And I think that collective energy is a real thing. And so when it comes to summoning or putting energy out into the universe, when people can get on the same page from a frequency standpoint and have a common intention, I think it can be strong. And one of the things I think is interesting is that you can look into music and see that, and in church too, in particular, when people start to connect and have this consistency of thought and feeling and emotion, it creates an energy. And I was talking to Mr. Rob G last year, and I mentioned to him that Parliament had a song called, or actually a record called Mothership Connection back in the 70s, before Star Wars was even a thing, and I believe well before Stephen Greer started his CE5. And a number of their songs at their concerts, if you listen to it, you feel like there's a summoning happening with this collective group of people all talking about the mothership is coming. I can feel it coming. I want to take a ride. I want to ride on the mothership. And they're singing about UFOs. And to me, that is collective intention being put out into the universe. And so I think whether people knew it or not, people have been practicing the summoning process for different ways, whether it's church or music concerts, etc., for a long time. I think Stephen Greer probably stumbled upon something that people have been doing for millennia.
I think you're right on that. And, you know, I've done it myself, you know, and when you know, one of my complaints when Skywatcher came out was when they changed the name to psionics, because they have a tendency for some reason to change the name of everything in ufology because they're so anti-ufology. Even though I think they're doing great work, I just don't like that part about them. It bugs me. But that's a personal opinion. You know, here they are, you know, and I actually tweeted out to Jake Barber one day. I said, you know, Skywatcher, that summoning has been around for millennia. People have claimed to have been doing it for hundreds of years. It was the first time that they actually admitted to that. You know, because the way they were kind of leading it on and indoctrinating the people, it was like they invented it. You know what I'm saying? To make themselves look good. And I just wasn't putting up with that. And so I made a tweet out there, and Jake Barber, God bless him, he said that, you know, you're right. It has been out there a long time, you know? And I think that's good for the public that they brought it out, even if I call it summoning, they call it psionics, you know, Dr. Greer calls it CE5. But the fact is, you know, they're coming out and saying, this is real. This is real. Like, you can do this. We can do this. You can do this. And I think that's wonderful, because I think if more people tried it, you know, it would open their eyes to a lot more. How do you do it?
Well, I don't do it as often as I was before, because I was talking about with my detached retina and, you know, all these other things. I felt like I was sort of getting in over my head and inviting things in that I didn't really know what was coming. Whether, like I said, it was the passive sea turtle or a mako shark. So but I basically use visualization to, I close my eyes. I have breathing techniques that I do employ. I do breath work quite a bit. And I get myself into a certain state where I lower my heart rate, gets to about 48 beats a minute, which is low for me. And I do my breath work, and I get these sort of tingling sensation in my toes and my fingers tips, and I see what I want to see. I basically, just like the marathon, I visualized crossing the finish line and breaking down into tears, and then that's what happened. So I do that on a micro level with these things, and invariably stuff shows up and starts darting around the sky. And when I'm doing that, I'm not recording. It's a separate thing. Like, it takes effort, it takes awareness for me, and a lot of intention. And I haven't really tried to do it while setting up a camera, and I'm not doing it for that purpose necessarily. I'm doing it to connect. And so I don't care. It's not important to me to capture it on camera and post it, I guess is what I'm saying. Maybe it should be, but for me, it's just, I'm not trying to.
I don't have an issue with that.
I don't know.
I don't have an issue with that, John, because this is for you. You're not doing it to make money off of YouTube. You're not doing it to get on television shows. You're not doing it to, be the next, mainstream player in ufology. You have your own niche that you are following along, and whether or not you use a camera or not, you're an enthusiast of the subject. I think that's wonderful.
Right. Sure.
I do. I'm very much the same way. Outside of our investigative area at what we call Flight 21, I've never been an investigator before. I never took a camera out in the field outside of my phone because, I didn't care to film anything. I just wanted to sit back and experience this magic. And that's what it is. So I have a lot of respect for what you're doing there.
Yeah, thank you. And, I'm very fortunate to have, an area here where, you see, like I mentioned, being in the foothills, so there's a slight elevation, so I'm above the city lights, and so I can see back here up into the sky without not a ton going on. And so and it's a nice escape too. It's a way to decompress. So there's like a health aspect to it for me, which I really feel fortunate to be able to come out here and engage nature and be outside and kind of connect with the sky. And it seems like it I guess pays off, or however you want to say it. It gives return, and I feel thankful for that when it happens.
Let's get to some audience questions here. Let's start off here with Derek. Latchkey Hustle, at this point, are the UFO, in your opinion, are the UFO congressional hearings coming up a waste of time?
In my opinion, the whole thing is a waste of time. I mean, the whole thing being the congressional efforts, the legislation, the back and forth. I mean, I represent corporate clients. I'm an employment lawyer, and some of my clients are in that realm, and I can tell you that the private industry is years ahead of the public sector and the government. So, and I laughed a couple weeks ago because I heard Jeremy Corbell saying something about, they're going to be backing up the truck to Lockheed Martin to get those things out of there because the legislation might be passing. And those things were gone years ago. The technology that these companies have, it's it's not here. They've moved it because they're ahead of the game. Just like cyber criminals are ahead of the government, and the government's constantly chasing the hackers. It's the same type of thing. And so, yeah, Derek, I think it's a waste of time. I think it's neat. It's good that it's more out in the open and these things are being talked about. The taboo is being lifted and the stigmas lightening. All those things are positive. So from that standpoint, it's great. But from what they're actually trying to accomplish, I think they're chasing their own tail and they're being laughed at by the private sector.
Let's move on here. Let's go next to Polly in Israel. I see lots of your videos on UFOs next to planes, John. Why do you think that if they don't fully show the craft to the public, or pardon me, to the passengers or the crew?
First, hi, Polly. Thanks for the question. Good to hear from you. Glad you're joining us. And I hope you're safe out there. So I see things from airplanes a few times only because I recorded them. I've never seen anything with the naked eye. And I think that's kind of the key to the answer to your question is these things I think are moving so fast that nobody's going to see them with the naked eye, whether they're on the ground or in the airplane. And I think that's kind of half the battle. I think these things move at a speed that our brains are not, we're just not registered to see them. And that's why I think the technology, the phones are great, because if you have the inclination to record and then slow it down, because it takes time to sit there going frame by frame through a video. Who wants to do that? It does, but that's the only way these things seem to show themselves. So, yeah, I think if more people did that from planes, Paulie, I think there'd be more footage from planes.
All right, let's move on to another question. This one from Queen. I live in the west side of the falls. He knows Kemp flows into Diversion, and it flows to Kickapoo, then to Arrowhead. She's like a neighbor of yours.
That's cool.
Yeah, just make that comment
I'll
there.
Tell you, Arrowhead is a great. Talk about light pollution. You can see so much in Arrowhead. It's amazing. Arrowhead and Big Bear are both, known areas for sightings. There's a lot of stuff going on up there, which is really cool.
Paulie again wants to know, why do you think you were contacted, and what do you feel is your mission?
The why, if I had to come up with any, I don't know the answer, obviously, but if I had to come up with one, in other words, my theory, I suppose, has to do with being a high vibration individual. And that's not because I think I'm special it's because I work at keeping a high vibration, and I try to prioritize the things that I think are important. And so, like I'm a husband and a father and a son, and an uncle and an attorney in that order. And that's high for an attorney. It's probably lower. And I conduct myself accordingly. And I do things like I mentioned, the ice baths, the breath work, putting myself in adverse situations and performing. All those things I do to increase elevate my frequency and keep my vibrations high as a human. And I think I don't know why, but I tend to think that has something to do with it because I haven't always lived that lifestyle. And there's a correlation that I've noticed. And when I am living that way, I'm more in tune with the universe. And when I'm disconnected, I'm not. And when I'm not doing hard things, I'm not. When I'm indoors all the time, I'm not. Um, and so, yeah, and, a quick aside, one of the other reasons this evolution began for me is because of COVID. Because before that, I was indoors in my car, driving to downtown LA, in my office all day indoors, in court all day indoors, in depositions indoors, driving home, and then indoors. I was always indoors. And then the world shut down, and I started working from home, and I don't have an office. So I built a stand-up desk in my garage, and I started working in my garage with the garage door open, and I was immediately reconnecting with the natural environment. And that was a springboard, and I started taking walks. And all of a sudden, because of COVID, again, I was out in the environment, in the natural world, so much more than I had been for the last 15, 18 years. And I think that played a huge role for me in terms of reconnecting with our environment.
Let's move on to Chameleon. Have you ever had any feelings of missing time?
Once, yeah, I did. Not only missing time, but I knew where I was going. It happened in a car, and it was like I woke up, but I was driving, and it was very scary, to be honest with you. Um, and I don't know what happened to the time. I missed about 30 minutes, was gone. Um, and I knew where I was supposed to go, but I couldn't figure out how to get there, even though I go there all the time. The downtown LA courthouse, that's where I was going. And I've been practicing since 2001. So it's not a place I forget where to go. But that day, that happened. Um, and like I said, it was scary. I didn't know if I'd had a stroke. I didn't. But I went and I had all the testing. I had everything done, and there was no explanation. I mean, everything. I got a clean bill of health, but it was like 25 minutes just with like that. So yeah, that happened to me one time.
Did you have any after effects from that?
Not that I know of. I mean, knock on wood, it hasn't happened since. Um, but yeah, I mean, it stuck with me because it was so unnerving. But yeah.
All right, let's go to T-Bone here. John, I know you and Dr. Shipe see the dragons. Do you have a theory on what they are?
Whew. You know, my theories evolve, and I think really all of our theories should evolve with the evidence, I guess. I mean, some days I think it's one thing, and then something will happen, and I'm convinced it's something else. So the one thing I know is that I don't know anything. you know, I mean, whatever these things are that are getting recorded, that I record, Dr. Shipe records him, Bigfoot Dwarf records him. He's not too far. Shout out to Sky's Limit Smoke Shop. He records some really cool stuff over there. But I I feel like they fall into that category of creatures that are here, and we're just realizing them because we have the ability to slow down footage and have 4K footage in the first place, and we're starting to see them more. I know that doesn't shed light on what they are, but I think that categorization, like, I don't necessarily think they're like extraterrestrial. I think they're whatever they are. They're here, and they've probably been here longer than we have, and we're just now realizing, that they're here. Just like we realize in animals in the Amazon that we didn't know about for all of our existence until someone stumbles upon it.
Follow up from T-Bone here. Can you elaborate on your opinion of the Compton alien? Before we get into that, explain what the Compton alien is to people who may not know.
Yeah, so Compton, California is in South Los Angeles here. Again, not too far. I'm in the Pasadena area, basically. And in early June, somebody caught something on a ring cam, and it looks like an alien, a kind of a quintessential. I mean, there's a group, right? There's not just one quintessential alien. There's the, tall gray, small gray, mantid. There's all these different things, but it has this odd elongated head. It has this tiny little neck. It looks like it's about 3 feet tall. It had this odd gait, and it was oddly colored. And she had 3 ring cameras. One of the ring cameras caught it. The first one didn't, and the one in the backyard didn't, but one did. And when it comes on camera, the entire image pixelates momentarily. And then when it goes off screen, the pixelation goes away and the clarity comes back. So, whatever that entity was, whether it had an impact on the camera or not, I don't, who knows, but the timing, that was what the timing was. And what's also interesting about that is that this woman's next door neighbor was her aunt. And about 15 minutes before that capture, her aunt heard something land on her roof. And then she heard something basically sliding down the roof or the side of her house, and it freaked her out. And she ran into her bedroom and started praying. Then fast forward about 15 minutes, and her niece's ring cam goes off and captures what I just described. So, and that was June 5th or 6th. And I saw that online, and because it was local here to me, I featured it in a presentation and sort of broke it down and pointed out a few things. But, I don't think anybody has debunked it. And the other thing that's interesting about that is that she got a notification on her phone from the ring cam, and within like 10 minutes she'd posted it to some social media platform. I think it was Facebook. And what's relevant about that is the timing. So if somebody's going to say, well, that's doctored footage, or it's Photoshop or CGI or whatever, it's like, number one, this lady doesn't really strike you as the type to do that. But also from a timing perspective, between when it was recorded and when it got posted online, there was no time to all of a sudden do all these things. That's authentic footage. What's in the footage is a different question, and who knows, but the footage itself, in my opinion, is authentic and fascinating.
All right, let's see if we can sneak in one more. We got less than a minute. Let's go to necessary dialogue. We may have all been abducted and most don't remember. What do you think that is?
ET anesthesia. I mean, I don't disagree with that premise. And I don't know if we should be thanking them for wiping our memories, basically, because you periodically hear of stories, and Whitley Strieber and some others, where it's very unpleasant, and you almost, you can tell they wish they didn't remember anything. So it's unnerving to think that we have no protection and something can take us whenever they want.
You got that right. John Billingslea, thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio for the first time. Latchkey Hustle, his YouTube channel. Make sure you check it on out. Hour 3 starts off with Swamp Dweller. Then Extra Small will be here for the Q&A. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, John, big thank you. Very much appreciate you, my man.
You got it. Thanks a lot, Dave. This was a great time. I appreciate the opportunity. It was a lovely
For
chat.
sure. Appreciate it. Go enjoy your weekend.
Yeah. All right.
Take
You
care.
got it.
John Billingslea, everybody. He's awesome. We're going to bring him back. We're definitely going to bring him back. That guy's smart. I got some ideas for him. That's for sure. Totally got some ideas. Wouldn't he be good on a panel? Like a UFO panel? Yeah. All right, I'll be right back.
Them moths can be tricky, you know.
All right. Let's bring in extra small. Hard to believe a week ago you were here.
Right? Oh my gosh. I feel like I have just barely left.
How was the drive home?
It was excellent. Beautiful, up to the point that I couldn't see anymore.
Right.
It got dark quick.
Yeah, but a beautiful drive nonetheless through the canyon, eh?
Yeah, it got dark before the canyon, but there's like this desolate area that's like being out in the desert.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's beautiful. You are in the desert, to be honest. Yeah. It's a desert there. Yeah, BC has one of the largest deserts in the world, and nobody knows that.
Wow.
Yeah. 10 seconds, my friend. Thank you tonight to Andrew, Karen, Human Carl, Erica, T-Bone, Candace, and Kitty Cattywhack. Thank you for your love and support. Here comes hour number 3, everybody. Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. This is Spaced Out Radio, and we bring these weird, strange stories to you each and every night. All right. Let us say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hent. Hent is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. I wish I had more information on this story. It was a very brief encounter that has always stayed with me since I was young. It may not be the most eventful, but it creeped me out. It started when I was young. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, my family lived in an old house with a few dogs in South Carolina. It was far from uneventful there. I heard strange noises and saw strange lights outside our house. I was convinced the place was haunted. As it turns out, I may not have been wrong. One of the weirdest things that ever happened to me happened outside of that house. I used to go outside a lot back then. I loved being outside, and the feeling of being out there, regardless of how warm or cold it was freeing to me. But I usually came back in before it got too dark out. I didn't stay out in the middle of the night, but one day I decided to stay out just for a bit longer into the evening. It was getting around 6:30 when I finally decided to go back inside that day. But before I did, I was interrupted by something extraordinary. Above my house was this sort of hill past a road that went through a forest. Up there was a neighborhood, plenty of people living there, at least for some nowhere southern town. Up there was a strange figure. I'd say it was tall, maybe 6 feet tall, but it was hard to tell from where I was standing, and the memories had been understandably vague since I was very young. I just sat there, staggered in disbelief. A tall, pitch-black humanoid figure loomed over me just over the hill. It was blank, and just black, sort of like a shadow. It looked distorted, though, like the shadow was moving around like static TV, if that makes any sense. Me being young and confused, I was stunned. It was so bizarre. I didn't know what to do, but the door was right behind me, so I could run back into my parents at any moment. I felt safe for that reason. I waved at the creatures as it stood there, and it gave me some sort of wave back for a few seconds. I was so creeped out that chills went down my spine. My heart was pounding, and goosebumps rose on my arms. It looked human and was now acting human. I started making other motions, and the thing, honestly, kind of had a mind of its own, but also was copying my every movement. I started making other motions, and the thing just copied them every time. I even walked closer and poked behind a tree, and it pretended to do the same, even though there was no tree for it to hide behind. I was thoroughly amused. I realized I would probably seem like a madman making weird motions to anybody who saw me. I looked around to see if anybody was looking. When I looked back at the creature, it was no longer there. The way it just stood there at first and then copied my every motion later was so strange and downright creepy the more I think about it. It seems like it was straight out of a horror story or something. The start of some climactic series of events. But I never saw anything like it again. I'm sure there has to be some sort of plausible explanation somewhere out there. But until then, this is the only paranormal story that I have.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for a short but sweet story. We love it when you kick off hour number 3. If you want more stories just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and you can listen literally to thousands of stories just like that. It's time for Lee. What do you say there, Lee Strauss? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Dave. You know what? You have got a fantastic head of hair, my friend, and I do not.
So I'm really into stupid little traditions. And
Oh, yeah.
I've started a tradition last week. Okay, because we were out in the forest, Merle, Tim, myself, and Lee, out at Flight 21. And we're all wearing hats. So I just figured, you know what? It's time to start, when we address each other, just time to start giving each other a tip of the cap. Tip of the
I
cap.
like that. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Bring some old school flavor back. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Need to do some more of that sort of thing for sure.
Absolutely. How was Flight 21 hangover?
Good. For the longest time, I haven't heard of this term ever, but apparently there's such thing as a paranormal hangover. Now, I have never heard about this, but come to think about it, the times that I have gone out and done ghost investigations, the next day I feel completely drained. And yeah, I was drained, but I left your place about, what was it? 7:15, 7:20 at night. I drove all the way home. Got home about close to 3:00. And I slept pretty much all the next day. All of Monday. Yeah.
I know you touched on it earlier last week or previously, pardon me, about what it was like being there. For listeners who didn't get a chance to hear that, what was your thoughts of Flight 21?
Well, Dave, it's not just the ghosts and the paranormal. There's other things going on there. I've had plenty of time to reflect on what happened out there. And it's there's a lot. There's things that are living there and there's things that are not, right? That area is so desolate. We drove probably a good hour out of town to get to that location. And it's out of the middle of nowhere. The trees, the landscape is the same everywhere you look. It's a little bit of rolling hills with little lakes and ponds, and the trees, there's 4 or 5 different types of trees, maybe more, but it all seems like it's a mirror of something else you've seen. When you're driving through there, you could get lost so freaking easily out there. And it's amazing that this one spot where Flight 21 had its crash is the spot where all of this activity is going on. I did mention it before that, we had that one footprint at that other location, but I would think that it would be very hard to find a location like this anywhere else up there, because there's just thousands and thousands of square miles of the same terrain. But in this little area, it's all in one little spot.
And it's hard to believe in just describing it or what we put on video, how small it is. It's not a big area.
No, we were walking down that one road, Dave, and we continued down the road and was like, you know what? There's no reason for us to go any further because there's nothing back that way. I said, there's no reason. Everything is back there behind us. I felt that. I'm sure you felt the same way. There's no reason. So there seems to be this circle of energy around this, where this crash had happened. And it would be almost worth your while if you have Nicole Sackich or something, and you guys go set out ribbons or something around the area that's actually hot. You know what I mean? To stay within those areas, and then like document what happens where inside that bubble. It's super active.
What was your favorite part?
When I walked off in that one direction with Tim, and I felt that entity, very large. I could only say it was a Bigfoot. We didn't see it. It was just standing probably, I would guess about 20 feet in front of us, kind of partially behind a tree. We can't see this, but in my mind's eye, this is what I see. The energy was so palatable, right? That it could be nothing else. I don't know that anybody understands what I'm saying, but when it's that much, when there's that much coming, it's almost like, when you're driving a car and you can tell somebody's looking at you next to you, driving next to you, and you look over and they are staring at you. It was like that, except times 10. It was a lot. And Tim and I both picked up on it.
What was, in your opinion, the biggest thing you learned from out there?
I think just, hanging out with Merle and seeing the different devices he had and stuff like that, trying to get ideas from him and how I can use that sort of equipment in other ways. So like the Estes method, as soon as I saw that we were doing it, I was like, hey, I've got this brain scanner that can read, the brain waves coming off of a person. I'm like, well, we can integrate that somehow into doing the Estes method too, so that we can, but it's just a matter of seeing what he has, seeing what and how he's using it, and trying to figure out how I can use that in my research, because I'm not really after looking for ghosts necessarily. I mean, I've known they've been around ever since I was a little kid, and it's kind of old hat type stuff for me. I mean, there's been so many shows on TV and that sort of thing. It is interesting, but it's not the only energy out there. I gravitate more towards the ET and the Bigfoot type stuff, and then also the Fae, right? So
the claustrophobic tightness of the location. What was your reaction to that?
Well, once it starts getting dark, everything closes in on you. We had some great lighting out there, but it still felt like everybody pulled in. You could tell there was things out there. There was the crunch of the branches. There was the movement, the soft footsteps, just those sorts of things that you couldn't see, but you could hear. Just beyond what you're visibly being able to see, So that space that we're in gets tighter and tighter and tighter as the darkness comes in and the daylight starts to fade, right? So it was very, very, it is very claustrophobic. And it's not just the fact that it's not what you're seeing. You are seeing the darkness, right? But there's more to it. There are things that are coming around to view us. When they think that we can't see them, that's when they want to come in and get a closer look. And they did.
Overall, we hear people say, I've got this location, you know, all of these hot spots, whether it's a museum, a prison, an insane asylum, or whatever, but they're very unidirectional. Whereas out there you don't know what to expect. What would you, in your mind, rate the Flight 21 location?
A strong 9. I can only say that I've been in one other area that's anywhere similar to that as far as the type of energy, but your spot is a magnitude higher in energy than what I experienced at the electric parking lot. I mean, you can see these shapes moving and undulating above the trees around the electric parking lot. And you can hear things out in the woods crunching around out there and that sort of thing. But I'm telling you what, the air seems to be alive in that spot, the Flight 21 area. And there's nothing like it that I've ever experienced. And you're right. I get it a lot from people. Oh, you got to come check out my spot. Come check out my spot. Do you mind traveling across the country to check out my spot? And I'm like, you know, I've got plenty of spots here in Washington. I don't need to go anywhere, but I'll tell you what, that spot up in Canada, thank God it's only, 7.5 hours away, because I'm coming back for you, buddy. I'm coming back, and we're going to do some time out there. You damn right.
Out of everything we experienced up there, what's the one thing that kind of caught you off guard?
I think, I already talked about the thing in the woods, the big, tall Bigfoot in the woods, but that rock held a lot of energy. There's this rock out there, and I don't know if it's granite or what the heck it is. And we drove around the next day, and there's rocks all over the place in the woods, in the forest, and everything. But that rock right there at Flight 21, that holds a lot of energy. There was a lot of, and I don't even know how to describe it, Dave. There's just a lot of juice coming off of that thing, a lot. And I think what we have there is probably somebody ended up landing on that rock or near that rock when the plane disintegrated in the air. But I think it seems to hold the energy of the souls around it as well. Like, that's a place to go. That's a safe spot to be, is that rock, because it's very grounding. It touches the earth. It's buried partway in the earth, right? And so any of that energy can collect on that one location. And that's kind of what I felt from it.
It's pretty crazy. It really is. And like I was saying to you when we were up there, like, you never know what's going to happen. And once dusk comes, that's where all of a sudden we were on alert. But the one thing that I don't think a lot of people understand, Lee, and you'll get this now that you've been there, it's not a place where you can relax.
Mm-mm. No. We talk about going up there and spending the night, for more than one night, 2 nights, 3 nights, it's going to have to be multiple nights. But do you think I'll rest? Do you think that I'm going to get rest up there? I don't think so, because I'm going to be on high alert the whole darn time. I know that, we investigated the area together as a group, but I'm telling you what, I need to just pair up with somebody, and we just need to go out and feel. All right, walk around and feel, and go where that energy is tugging me. Right, is what we need to do is go out in a way that, yes, you show me the hot spots and things where things happen, but I also just need to go out there and feel. I really do. Um, that's part of it. When I go out to do investigations looking for UFOs, the first thing I do, or one of the first things I do, is where are they going to come from? Where's the craft coming? If they're coming in, where are they going to be? And that's the way I set up my equipment, is so that I can see the craft coming in, or if they're going to be around, I want to make sure that I capture that footage. So I do a lot of feeling when I go out and do investigations.
No, I think that's a logical thing to do, and you know what? If you have time to do it, say 3 or 4 days, even 5 days, you could set up a camp outside of that area, and you might even draw the Sasquatch in to that area as well where you are.
Yeah, obviously, because it is not an easy place to get into. Not at all. I mean, there's that huge ravine that you have to go down. If you don't have a 4-wheel drive vehicle that can go in low, you're going to have a problem. You are going to have a problem. So, yes, right outside, that area before you turn down that last road, we should set up some sort of a trailer or a camper or something. Tents. Well, I don't know about a tent. You might want a hard shell. When Sasquatch comes a knocking, you know what I mean? It would be a lot to be in a tent, but if we were all in a tent, it might be all right. But yes, just outside that bubble that we're talking about, that bubble of influence, because when you're in there, you're influenced.
Do you feel different after being there?
There is something different. Dave, I'm not able to put my finger on it. It's calling me, I feel, in a way. And it's I've had other spots, like I know I need to go to a certain spot or whatever, but it's more than just one thing calling me. There's a lot. It seems to me that they were happy I was there. And I don't know why, or it seems that they were happy that the group of us was there together. I think that they want that. They want that us as a group of people with that kind of energy, with that positive, caring, loving energy. It's not negative. It's just good and happy. And yeah, that's the kind of energy they like to be around.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible place. And it's something that I think, obviously, Tim and I will be going back again and again. But, this is where it kind of sucks that you live so far away, because we'd love to definitely have you back there again, for more fun, satisfying investigations out there. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to, talk with everybody and get things set up, because we're going to have, next time I go, I don't want to just spend one day out there. That's not going to happen.
It was a nice warm up. When we come back on the Q&A with Lee Strauss, we're going to get into some UFO talk. We're going to get into whatever comes up. If the audience have questions, hey, it's going to be a great half-hour conversation. We'll be right back.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear.
Yes, Tim The Mothman is correct. I do have tents from the Secret Space Force. My floating tent. Yeah. Right there. That would be good.
I'm craving those light poles that you had.
You know what's really cool about those two is that they got a handle on them, right? So you can take it off the pole and hold that handle and then bend that light any way you want to.
Yeah. I think that's probably going to be my next investment, along with one of those paranormal candles.
Yeah, those are cool too. I loved Merle's. That was pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll have to send you the link for those lights. A lot of, I forgot which TV show. It was one of the Bigfoot TV shows, but they had those same lights that they used when they were filming.
It's not an area, like I've been all of a sudden lately, like the last week, I've been getting a lot of Bigfoot highlights from TV shows.
Yeah.
And, here they are, going through the woods at night. They have their lights on and everything like that, trying to track down noises or whatever. I don't think I would do that at Flight 21.
Well, you don't want to go after them. You want them to come to you.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's disrespectful in a way. Or they would view it as being disrespectful.
Yeah, I just really looked at that. I'm like, is that something I would try out at the flight? And I'm like, no. I tell you what I am kind of getting concerned about, though.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that, and Merle and I kind of had a minor conversation about this. I'm afraid with the popularity that is growing, that all of a sudden somebody is going to hit up that location and blow it up and take all of our work and, take the credit for it. You know what I'm saying?
This is what I would be worried about, and seriously would be worried about, is somebody coming in there and ruining it for you. You're building up this relationship with them. And somebody goes in there and does all the wrong things. And then what do you have? Is a steaming pile of crap.
Well, it kind of happened already when somebody went in there and moved a bunch of the crash site debris. Remember, it was all along that log?
Yeah.
When we got in there that night, it didn't feel right. It did not feel right at all. And we ended up, Tim and I just went and did our thing. We said, hey guys, like, this wasn't us. This disappoints us. We're here to be your friends and everything, and had a conversation. And within minutes, everything calmed down.
Yeah.
Right. But the good part about it is there's not enough people who understand A, how far it is out there, and B, which path to take to actually find it.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's some people that are pretty good at investigating and probably could figure it out, but
it's easy to figure out. But if you don't know the trail to turn on, you're going to pass it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I just worry for you, having that great spot with all that attention that you get, and then somebody goes in there and starts blasting their gun away or whatever because they're freaked out because there's something that they can't see in the woods, and things are gonna just leave. That's a concern.
Yeah, I would agree. Big thank you tonight to Kitty Caddywhack, T-Bone, my man, Candace, Trucker Andrew, Karen in the Woo Train, Human Carl, and Erica for the great super chats. We greatly appreciate your love and support of SOR. And a big thank you to everybody who shops at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag. No ugly swag, everybody. So make sure you check it on out. We got about 17 seconds, Lee.
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
All right, we're into the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. I'm the host of this Train on the Woo side. Oh, we love it here. We love doing this with you guys. Thank you very much for tuning us on in. Hey, we want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here's Lee Strauss. He's from our YouTube show, Element 115, and we were talking about Flight 21 beforehand, but we're going to get into some other UFO news here just to kind of get his perspective on everything. Lee, thank you so much for being here.
I love being here.
We love having you, Lee. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I don't know if you heard, but just a few days ago, it was the 70th anniversary of the Hopkinsville Goblins. The Kentucky Goblin story, where, I mean, this is to me, it's one of the greatest encounters of alien contact. So let me give you the backstory on this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it happened. Let's go back. In 1955, 5 adults, 7 children, so 12 people, arrived at the Hopkinsville police station, claiming that small alien creatures from a spaceship had been attacking their farmhouse, and they had been holding them off with gunfire for nearly 4 hours. 2 adults, Elmer Sutton and Billy Ray Taylor, claimed that they had been shooting at a few short, dark figures who repeatedly popped up in the doorway and peered into windows. The first paper to cover this story was the Kentucky New Era, and it increased the number of creatures from 12 to 15 and continues to be the number most often reported. Concerned about the possible gun battle between local citizens, like they didn't want another Hatfield and McCoys going on, 4 police officers from the city, 5 state troopers, 3 deputy sheriffs, and 4 military police officers from the nearby United States Army Fort Campbell base drove to the Sutton farmhouse located near the town of Kelly in Christian County. Their search yielded no evidence apart from broken windows and holes in the screens, possibly the result of gunfire. Residents of the farmhouse included Glennie Langford, her children Lonnie, Charlton, and Mary, 2 grown sons from a previous marriage. There was Elmer and John Charlie, their respective wives, Vera and Aline, Aline's brother, O.P. Baker, and Billy Ray Taylor and his wife, June. Both the Taylors, Lucky and Vera Sutton, were reportedly carnival workers who were visiting the family farmhouse. When officers returned the next day, they found the house empty. Neighbors informed them that the families had packed up and left after claiming the creatures had returned at about 3:30 in the morning. So many people believe this is a fake, because that's what the skeptics do. And in these cases, we always have to put the skeptics ahead of the real knowledge about this. So apparently, according to ufologist Jerome Clark, he writes the supposed creatures floated through the trees and the sound of bullets striking them resembled bullets striking a metal bucket. Clark describes an odd luminous patch along the fence where one of the beings had been shot, and in the woods beyond, a green light whose source could never be determined. However, this description was consistent with foxfire, a bioluminescent fungus on decaying wood, but nobody else was there. But the skeptics will always find something. Now, according to this, these people were so scared that they didn't know if the beings would ever come back. And the funny part about these beings, which stood between 3 and 4 feet tall, I like to describe them, if you want to paint a picture in your head. You remember Lilo and Stitch, the cartoon? You know, Stitch, the short little round blue being with the big ears and the big round eyes. Well, if you stretched him out and made him thin, okay, brought him up to 3-4 feet, that's probably what they would look like, except more silver in color. Now, these beings have never been seen again in the area. There are no reports. The family never, ever changed their story. And to this day, the Hopkinsville Goblins is legend of 70 years. What's your thoughts, Lee?
So two things. I think the beings, the goblins, were after someone. They were trying to probably take one of the people that were there. And obviously they met resistance, right? But being that they're most likely drones of some sort, they had their job to do and they were going to try to do it. Now, the family left and moved away because the beings came back that same night at 3:00. That tells me that they believed what they saw. And it scared them enough to where they're like, you know what? We're out of here. We're not dealing with this. This is not a place we want to be. So yeah, they obviously thought enough about it to move somewhere else. If you were going into the police station saying that this is what happened to you, and most likely their whole family was there at the police station saying the same thing, how is it that now they're going to be laughing stocks of the whole town, most likely, with this story? Why would you not believe them? I mean, somebody would not come to a police station, or the whole family for that matter, to give this story a whirl if it weren't real.
You could say the same thing about the Patterson-Gimlin film, of the Sasquatch there, Patty.
Right.
I mean, these were people who, were they out there looking for it? Yes. Did they expect the encounter that they got? No. And good people like that you're never prepared for it. There's no way to prepare for something like that.
No, and truth be told, all the pointy sticks that they had, I'm sure, were for hunting, right? For the most part. And we don't know how far out of town they lived, right? But they were just there. And as like I said, I think there was somebody there that they needed to go get and take for whatever reason, but that was their job. And you're never prepared. You're never prepared to fight aliens off. But, in the case of 21, and in this case, pointy sticks are there just in case something goes awry. You don't know. You're not prepared, but you want to be as best as possible. So especially in the woods, you are protecting yourself.
Do you think then that would you consider this Hopkinsville case a highlight of what we should be looking for and more people should be talking about?
No, I don't, because as far as abductions are concerned and situations like this, it doesn't seem like there's been too many of these. In fact, this is the only case that we know of. I mean, there was the case tales of the school kids seeing the alien in the ship, in South Africa. But they weren't aggressive in the way that these were more aggressive. This kind of thing doesn't happen very often. So once again, I don't know how you would prepare for it. And I don't think that something like this is very common at all.
All right, let's move into something a little bit more new here, because we now have a date for the next UFO hearings. It'll be September 9th. And we are somebody who I think we're going to try and cover that live on our YouTube channel when it happens. I really do believe we're going to try that and kind of go from there. It's easy to be negative on this, like, really, here we go again. I know I've eye rolled this so many times. We don't need any more hearings, but it sounds like they're going to be bringing out some actual eyewitness experiencers. Now, are they whistleblowers? I still don't believe that, but at least we seem to be getting closer to the subject matter where they're planning on bringing out firsthand witnesses. How intrigued are you by these talks? Number one.
Well, I have been very skeptical in the past of these congressional hearings. It seems to me that a lot of it is a dog and pony show meant to try and ease our minds, right, about the phenomenon and give us little gold nuggets here and there. But I am intrigued. Listening to Lena Paluna, whatever. She sounds very grounded. And I do have high hopes that things are going to come out, especially now with Trump saying things and our vice president saying things, JD Vance. So I'm really hopeful now, even though I'm still a little bit skeptical, but I am so hopeful that we're going to get something groundbreaking and earth shattering. And it seems like, Dave, it's gone from psionics to now these metamaterials can dissolve and put themselves back together. Is all this fantastical stuff, this just amazing technology. Some would even call magic, but it's just tech that we don't understand. But yeah, I'm waiting for that next gold nugget to come out, because where is that going to take us? Is it going to prove one theory or another theory? Well, that's the hope, right? Is that the next little puzzle piece is gonna fit nicely into that puzzle so that we can get more and glean more information.
What do you want to see come out of this?
Oh boy, what would I like to see come out of this? Well, at the end of the hearing, just before they close, I would like our president and our vice president and some other people to come out on stage and say, you know what? They've been here for a long time. And we know all about it. That's what I would like. But do I think I'm going to see that? I don't think so. Not yet. I think we're still waiting for something major to happen. And they'll use that gold nugget, that major gold nugget, to sweep other things under the rug.
I would like to see them come out with places. I think if we can get some places, it would be a very, very big step forward. If some of these people said, look, when I was stationed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, I saw such and such a craft. Or when I was stationed in New Mexico, I was privy to the hangars where these craft were present. Although the craft were not present at that time, these are where they are storing them. You know, I think if we were able to get something along those lines, it would move the ball forward. It really would. You know, and I realize that they can't come out and say that because national security, they're going to hide behind national security with everything. Because if the Chinese or the Russians or Ted Cruz's space pirates ever found out that we were holding craft at this community or that base or whatever it may be, that they're going to send their spies there, that's the excuse they'll check. But here's the thing, what we don't realize, the spies are already there. Okay? Money talks. It doesn't matter whether you're American or Canadian. If somebody comes up to you and says, hey, if you can get me a picture of this, your mortgage is paid off. All we want is one picture. Oh, what's a little treason for $200,000 or $300,000 to pay off the mortgage?
Yeah.
What's a little treason for one photo?
The
spies are there.
You bring up a good point. Talking about having someone come forward and saying, well, this is where the craft are, right? But what would be better, in my opinion, is show us the craft. Show us, a reproduction vehicle. Go outside and then point your cameras in the sky and show us, right? Just like they do an air show or anything else when the Putin's in town. Why don't they just fly a craft over?
True. Very true. But I mean, if the spies already know, okay, if the spies already know where these are, what are we hiding from? The American public? That's all it is. It's the American public.
You're right. It's the public. And it's not just American public. It's the public around the world, right?
Right. And that's true.
Yeah.
That's totally true. But what do you do about that? The hearings have to give us something, Lee. If it's another bust like the last one was, where Lou Elizondo was all about buy my book, and Mike Gold was all NASA, we're awesome. Acting like Ralph Wiggum from The Simpsons. Little Ralphie. I'm Idaho. Right?
Yeah, you're never going to get away from that. People are always going to seek the limelight to try and get their own agenda out there, or get you to buy their book, or get you for whatever this or that, or teach you CE5 or whatever they're selling, right? So we're never going to get away from that. What we're looking for are those fresh faces that don't have a book to sell and just want to tell the truth because it's the right thing to do. Like I feel that way about David Grush. Right? He doesn't have a book to sell. He just wants plainly just to get that information out there to the public. But he's probably been co-opted now.
I would agree with you. And apparently, from what I'm hearing from insiders like Courtney Marcassani, and others, is that he's a little bit of, might be, even though he's a nice guy, from what I hear, he's a little bit of a control freak when it comes to making sure that this process is followed to the way he wants it done. That's very interesting to me.
Yeah. I get that feeling too. It's like he is super by the book. No deviation from that whatsoever. And I can appreciate that. I can. I think maybe because he's got a little bit of a disability that he's more hardcore on that than the normal person would be. I know that certain individuals like to stick to the rules, no matter no matter hell or high water. So I get it.
I have no problem with that. But if you're doing it for yourself and not for the betterment of the cause, whether it's David Grush or Chris Mellon or Elizondo or whoever you want to mention, as long as you're doing it for the betterment of humanity, like you're talking about, then that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is a good thing. Let's just hope to God that, this next hearing we'll get some nuggets, because, it's been a long time coming, and it might not be the thing that tips the scales, but it might push us in that direction, and we might learn more. And that's what we need.
Very much agreed. So, I mean, this is one that we're going to have to these latest hearings, which start September 9th. We are literally going to have to wait and see. There is no in between with it. We'll have to wait and see. And, here's Human Carl, a great veteran of the United States Air Force, in our chat room. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. I watched the first 3 hearings, not going to waste my time again. If something new and important comes out of it, I'm okay with hearing about it the next day. And unfortunately, that's the attitude of many people right now. Many, many people.
I agree with that. You don't need to watch it as it goes. We can hear about it from people afterwards.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. We're good at that. We're very good at that.
We need the dust to settle, and then we can make our, decisions and opinions upon that after that's happened.
Lee, we have 15 seconds left before we have to conclude this show. Do me a favor, tell everybody where they can find you.
I'm on Facebook under Lee Strauss. You can reach out to me there. You can also see me on every Friday on Element 115 right here on Spaced Out Radio.
As we say goodnight to Lee and hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Dahl, rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god of self. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio at Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Well, there you go. There you go.
Very nice. Very nice.
It was such a pleasure to have you here, dude.
Dude, it made such a difference. Just hanging out with you for that little bit. I'm just so much more calm. I know it sounds funny, but doing this radio show with you sometimes can be a little bit, stressful, because I never know what we're going to talk about. But hanging out with you at your place, man, is just it's so nice to know you in a different way. I mean, we met in Reno 2 years ago, but it's different when you get to see somebody in their own home. You know what I mean?
You're actually trying to insult me here, because next you'll be saying what I was doing. Lee, are you having a good time? Like every 10 minutes. Lee, are you having a good time? Are you having a good time? Is everything good? Can I get you anything? Do you need anything?
Man, I am just so even keel. I really am. We had a blast, man. We really did. The only thing that I'm upset about is we didn't have more time. There are so many people that commented on that 3-toed print we found.
I know. That was weird.
Yeah, super weird. I don't know.
Totally different location. You see the difference in locations, though. One's wide open. You feel safe in the one.
Right, it's wide open. You've got a couple intersecting roads there, and they did some tree cutting over, and so it's a wide open space, but there's still activity there. And I don't know what that is. Is it possible that you've got some sort of warm-blooded dinosaur up there or something? Because I'm telling you what, man, that is an odd print. I mean, is there any legends or anything in folklore or
no idea,
Native American anything? It's just bizarre. Okay. So maybe it's a shapeshifter of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Giant chicken. The heel would say otherwise on the giant chicken idea. I don't know, but it was a deep print, kind of in a muddy location that dried up, and it had rained a couple days prior, so the ground was soft and wet there, but there wasn't a second print. It was just the one.
No. It was weird. It was a good weird.
It was a good weird.
Mm-hmm. It was good weird. Very good weird. All right, Lee, I'm going to say goodnight to you.
Okay.
I literally had one of those sleeps last night, dude, that, when you're sleeping so lightly, it feels like you're awake.
Yeah.
I had one of those last night for the first couple of hours. And I'll be honest with you, I'm tired.
That's fine, brother. You need to get your sleep, and so do I. But I'll tell you what, I cannot wait to hang out with you again. It was
brother,
awesome.
The door is always open. It is always open, and you are always welcome up here to see what's going on and to be a part of it. That's for sure.
Right on, man. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're always welcome in my home. Always welcome in my home.
That's a great honor.
Yeah, man. Why wouldn't you? I will say this. I learned a lot from watching you last weekend. Tim and I both did, and I'm sure he told you that as well. And, because Tim and I are not investigators. We are not. We're not researchers. We're not investigators. Yeah. So yeah. I will, Tim Mothman. We are just enthusiasts now, filming and putting it out there with what we get. We're going to be making mistakes, because we're learning. And that's how you learn.
Even when you have done it 100 times, you're going to make mistakes. That's going to continue to happen. Yeah, but that's how you learn. You're right.
So we're going to see where this goes. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see how this plays out. Mm-hmm. And the best part about it is we're in no hurry. We have years to investigate this place. Years.
Right.
It's not going anywhere.
Nope.
Barring a forest fire. It's not going anywhere. Right? And the one thing I do know from the firefighters back in 2021, when the fires got very close to that area, they were bulldozing way around it to make sure the fire did not hit that location.
Oh, nice.
Like they are protective of that area.
Good.
So, yeah. But anytime you want to come up, you know, we got to do it. We got to do it anytime.
Right on, man. Right on.
All right, brother. You go get some sleep.
All right, you too.
Reminder to all of our audience, I will be taking next week off. Okay, we will be playing some replays, so that way you guys have some shows to watch, but we are going to be redoing the studio here at SOR headquarters. We're going to be making it looking a little bit more professional, a little bit dialed back, but a little bit more awesome. So we are a couple of times going to be, because we're also installing a new motherboard for our audio. So we will be looking into maybe doing some live stuff during the week where we could test audio as well. And so thank you, everybody, for the amazing support tonight. Trucker Andrew, Human Carl, Karen in the Woo Train, T-Bone, my man, Erica, Candace, and Kitty Cattywhack. Thank you to all of our new subscribers this week. I will talk to you. I know I'll talk to you live late this week, but we will be having some technical stuff going on here. And the full shows will resume after, make that the Monday of the September long weekend. So thank you, everybody. We love you. Thank you for being a part of this. And, or what is it? Yeah, next week. Holy shit, we're there already. We'll get everything going for you, okay? So thank you, everybody. Please tell your friends. We appreciate you. And I hope you saw the mixing of the backing theme track of Dave's audio. Don't know what that means. Don't know. All right, guys. Good night, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.